ಎರೋ ಮಾರ್ಕಲ್ಲಿ ಇದನ್ನು ಮಾಡೋದು ಇದನ್ನು ಮಾಡಿ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ Hello, good morning, all my dear students.
Good morning, sir.
Good health.
Good
Good
morning,
morning.
sir.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
You may be recognizing me. I am Dr. Walvekar. Today, we are having the discussion regarding biochemistry of the jaundice. So, the jaundice is the situation or the stage. You cannot call this one as a disease, but it is a one observation or a finding which will be found in either the adults or the neonates, and it is most of the places found to be a waterborne disease. In the adults, it is the one which will be occurred because of, first thing is that regarding the without having any good quality of the water. Second one will be some pathological aspects or because of some adverse action of the drugs and other things in the adults. Whereas in the neonates, about 60 to 70% of the newborn children, they will be affected with the jaundice, which we can classify that as the physiological jaundice and pathological jaundice, and it needs a separate way of treating the persons or those neonates. However, first we will see that what is jaundice. Jaundice is a one condition wherein you found the discoloration of the sclera, the skin, and you may notice some changes in the urine output, and apart from that, the person may feel fatigue, loss of appetite, pain in abdomen, and all these things can be a symptoms relating to this occurrence of the jaundice. So, jaundice is not that serious problem, but it should be attended properly, and it is always better to attend it at the early stage. Otherwise, it may turn into the fatal one. Particularly when it is the case with the neonates, the chances of affecting more to the neonates more comparing to the adults one. So the occurrence of the jaundice is one indication of the liver dysfunction, because it is the one which is formed in the liver. So it is the one which says or it refers to dysfunction of the liver, or because of some adverse effect of the drugs, or some inflammation that is taking place, or some obstructions that are there because of the tumors in the liver. So the jaundice is the one indicative of these such problems. So let us see how that jaundice occurs, what can be the background of biochemistry for this jaundice. So jaundice is defined as the yellowish discoloration of the skin, sclera and mucous membrane, and it is also referred with as the icterus. When we see the serum sample that is taken out by the blood, you know all well that how the serum is separated. Once you collect the blood sample in a plain test tube, that will be allowed for clotting and separation of the fluid part, and you centrifuge it. The, the upper supponent part will be the serum. So looking at the color of the serum, you can make out whether the person is having jaundice or not. So that time it is a quite practice in the laboratory to say whether the serum sample is icteric or not. Icteric means the serum sample, the fluid part which has got the yellowish coloration. So however it differs from patient to patient depending upon the concentration of the one pigment called as the bilirubin that is present in the serum sample. So when the bilirubin pigment is present in the blood sample of a patient suffering from the jaundice, so just looking at the serum sample, you can make out whether it is icteric or not. Icteric means it is having the jaundice or yellowish color, and in general jaundice is called as also as the icterus one. So this coloration is due to the presence of high bilirubin level in the blood. It is an orange yellow pigment formed in the liver by the breakdown of hemoglobin and excreted in the bile. So how this bilirubin is formed? Bilirubin is continuously getting formed in our body because of the breakdown of the hemoglobin, which will be having the RBCs. We all know that the RBCs have got certain span of the life, and once the life is over, they get into a catabolism, and because of that one, there will be the formation of biliverdin. From biliverdin to bilirubin, that will be formed, which we'll see in the following slides. So it is the jaundice is the sign of underlying process. So looking at the person, you may feel that that person is suffering from the jaundice. It means just to having a glance at him, you can see that the person is having the yellow coloration on the skin or the sclera. Particularly, more it will be prominent when it is observed in the sclera. So when we take the blood sample of a patient suspecting of the bilirubin, then if the bilirubin is estimated in that serum sample and its value is observed, if it is around 2.5 or more than 2.5, then it has got a clinical evidence or clinical importance will be there. The normal range for bilirubin is just 0.6 to 0.8 milligram or up to 1 milligram. In some texts they give up to 0.9 also. Up to 1 milligram we can consider milligram per deciliter as the normal one. Okay. So, so when we look at this jaundice is because of the presence of bilirubin. This bilirubin is existing in the two types. One is two forms you can call, that is conjugated bilirubin and unconjugated bilirubin. So you can refer them also as the direct bilirubin and indirect bilirubin. Conjugated is direct and unconjugated is indirect. So the part of the bilirubin, that is which can be conjugated with the glucuronic acid to get conjugated and excreted in the bile, so that part will be called as the conjugated bilirubin. So which cannot be conjugated with the glucuronic acid in the liver, it is called as the unconjugated bilirubin. So in the clinical medicine or in the biochemistry, or you can say in the clinical biochemistry, when we refer to the bilirubin values, we take into the consideration of three things of the bilirubin. One is conjugated bilirubin and unconjugated bilirubin, and combining these two together, we call that as the total bilirubin. So whenever you look at the laboratory reports, you will see that it will be expressed as total bilirubin, conjugated bilirubin and unconjugated bilirubin. This will be the way of or the fashion in which the bilirubin values are expressed. So depending upon the amount of the conjugated bilirubin, presence of conjugated bilirubin and unconjugated bilirubin, we classify the type of the jaundice that is present in the patient. So remember well, jaundice is because of presence of the more amount of the bilirubin. So this bilirubin exists in the two types. One is conjugated bilirubin and another one is the unconjugated bilirubin. Combined these two together, we refer or find out as the total bilirubin. Means the values will be expressed as total bilirubin, conjugated bilirubin and unconjugated bilirubin. So, and again, depending upon the proportionality of this conjugated and unconjugated, we classify the type of the jaundice. Okay. How this formation of the bilirubin takes place? Very first thing is that it is a pigment. It is a pigment of the bile that is secreted by the liver. So it is produced in the bone marrow cells and in the liver cells as the end product of the red blood cells, that is hemoglobin breakdown. You have seen that one. The RBCs have got certain span of life. So by that, so there will be the continuous catabolism of the hemoglobin will be taking place. So this catabolization of the hemoglobin that takes place in the spleen, and bilirubin is formed when a porphyrin in the heme undergoes oxidative cleavage. So there will be releasing of biliverdin. So the biliverdin is reduced to bilirubin. So what it says that one? The bilirubin is a pigment that is secreted by the liver. It is produced by the bone marrow cells because of the breakdown of the hemoglobin or the red blood cells, or which takes place in the spleen. And when the porphyrin ring of the heme, when it undergoes the oxidative cleavage, there will be releasing of biliverdin. That is one, the intermediate product that will be formed. So that biliverdin that will be again undergoes a reduction form and it forms the bilirubin. So this, when you look at the structure of this bilirubin, it is a linear tetrapyrrole molecule and usually it is insoluble in water, but you can find that it is soluble in the non-polar solvents. It has got the existence in the both isomers, that is trans and cis, and when it is exposed to the light, bilirubin in the trans configuration is converted to cis configuration, which will be more water soluble. The molecular formula is C33, H36, N4 and O6. So this is the something pure chemistry of the bilirubin. So you can see that the structure of the bilirubin, where it is joined by the methane bridge, a pyrrole ring. Now, coming to how this synthesis of the bilirubin takes place. Very first thing is that the, as I said that one, the hemoglobin, which is consisting of globin part and also the heme part. So first it undergoes the catabolism, and when it undergoes the catabolism, it is because of the breakdown of hemoglobin. The breakdown of the hemoglobin takes place into the two parts. That is, one is the heme and another one is the globin. Globin is the one which is other than the protein, which is consisting of the amino acids. These amino acids, they will be taken back to the body. They undergo synthesis and it will be stored in the body. Whereas this heme, this is the one. So this is the heme is the one which undergoes the conversion, that is, it will be formed into the biliverdin, a green colored biliverdin, and that undergoes a oxidative reaction and reduction reaction, so it will be converted into bilirubin, that is the yellow pigment. The heme is the one wherein there will be the liberation of iron that will be used by the ferritin. So you know that now at the first part the hemoglobin is undergoing the breakdown. The breakdown takes place in the liver, wherein it will form into the two parts, that is globin. From the globin to the formation of amino acids, it will be taken back into the body, and then the another part, that is the heme, that one gives rise to biliverdin, an intermediate product. From the biliverdin, it is formed into the bilirubin. Now, how this bilirubin undergoes further process, we will see in the next slides. As such, this bilirubin, it has no function in the body, so it is excreted through the bile. So from hemoglobin, the globins are separated, what I told that one, and they undergo hydrolysis, and amino acids are channeled into the body, amino acid. The iron that is liberated from the heme, that will be reutilized, as you seen in the last slide. So the ferrous that is liberated, it is getting oxidized to the ferric one, and it is taken up by the transferrin. So it is estimated that about 300 milligram of the bilirubin is formed every day, out of which 80% is from the destruction of the old RBCs and 10% from the ineffective erythropoiesis, and rest 10% by the degradation of the myoglobin and heme containing proteins. So 80% is by the destruction of the RBCs which have got the destruction with a span of the life of 120 days, and 10% are from the erythropoiesis and 10% degradation from the myoglobin. So this bilirubin, water it is formed, it will be transported further with the bound form with the albumin. When you are studying with the functions of the albumin, you must have noted that. What are the functions of albumin? We say that one. So albumin is the one which acts as a transporter. For example, for the T3, T4, magnesium, sorry, calcium, all these things they get bound with the albumin and they get transported. So here also the albumin works or functions as the transporter and it moves the bilirubin in a bound form with the albumin. So the proportionality is that one molecule of the albumin can bind the two molecules of bilirubin. So as usually when once it is bound with the albumin, it forms the albumin bilirubin complex. It forms the albumin bilirubin complex, reaches at the sinusoidal surface of the liver, and then the bilirubin will be taken up. So remember students that at the span of 120 days the RBCs are getting destructed and they undergo degradation and they form into the two things. One is heme and another one is the globulin. The globulin is the one which is further formed into the amino acid pools and it will be reutilized. Whereas the heme which is there, that is the one which will be converted into biliverdin. Biliverdin. From biliverdin, the bilirubin will be formed. This formed bilirubin, it will be further moved with the binding with the albumin, bound with the albumin. So about 300 milligram of the bilirubin is formed every day, and the proportionality is that one molecule of the albumin can bind with the two molecules of the bilirubin. So once it binds with the albumin, it forms a complex that is called as the albumin bilirubin complex and reaches at the surface of the liver, sinusoidal surface of the liver, and then further the bilirubin will be taken up. So, what is the use of this albumin binding? One may ask, what is the need of that albumin? It is acting as a transporter, one thing. Second thing is that it keeps the bilirubin soluble, and because of that binding with the albumin and forming the complex of albumin and bilirubin, it prevents the deposition of the bilirubin in the tissues and it prevents the renal excretion. So that whatever the amount of bilirubin that has formed, it should go in a proper way, but it if it gets passed into the renal excretion, again there can be a lot of damages to the kidney may occur. So binding of the bilirubin with the albumin, it has got these three advantages. But what happens sometimes the patient will be under the some treatment with the drugs. So that drugs can pose the problems to the this system. The drugs like sulfonamides, coumadin, these are the one which can displace the bilirubin from the albumin and it may precipitate to form the Kern icterus. That is the one which is the one condition wherein you can find the deposition of the bilirubin in the brain area and it can affect the which can call you as the encephalopathy which usually occurs with the neonates. So these drugs can have this bad action when once such things are taken, and they may lead to high amount of the bilirubin to be deposited. Thus, the it leads to permission of bilirubin to enter the central nervous system, and then it may cause the potentiality of the neural damage in the infants. So to avoid all these things, the body has got this system of carrying the bilirubin with the albumin as a carrier. So the albumin and bilirubin, they bind together and form the complex. Okay. Now, so this further pathway, it has got three distinct metabolic phases. The three things are hepatocyte uptake, conjugation, and excretion in the bile. In the cells of the liver, bilirubin undergoes modification to increase its water solubility so that it can be excreted more easily. So the efforts will be there in the liver to make somehow the bilirubin to have the solubility in the water so that it can be excreted more easily. For that purpose, what the body does is that the solubility of the bilirubin is increased by the addition of two molecules of glucuronic acid. So this step we call as the conjugation. This conjugation process, it will be catalyzed by the UDP glucuronal transferase, that is uridine diphosphate glucuronic acid. Here this is the one which provides the glucuronate. So there will be the conjugation with the glucuronic acid taking place. So from the biliverdin, the bilirubin is formed. From there, there will be the three steps to undergo. So there, the solubility of the bilirubin in the water will be increased by making it to undergo the conjugation with the UDP glucuronal transferase or conjugation with the glucuronic acid. This conjugated bilirubin, it is actively secreted in the bile and then in the intestine. Once this conjugation has taken place, this conjugated bilirubin is actively put into the bile and then into the intestine. So once that bilirubin is reached to the intestine, the glucuronic acid, whatever it is there, that will be removed by the bacteria, and that resulting bilirubin will be referred as the urobilinogen. So this urobilinogen will be further undergoes the processing. How that is, some amount of the urobilinogen will be absorbed from the blood and enters the portal vein. And 10% of this urobilinogen, it is transported from the kidney by the blood into the kidney, where it is converted into the yellow urobilinogen and excreting through the urine and reduce the characteristic odor. But about 90% of this urobilinogen is oxidized by the intestinal bacteria to the brown stercobilirubin billing, and it will be excreted through the feces. We got it now? From the biliverdin to bilirubin, bilirubin will be taken into the hepatocyte cells. From there, what happens? It is made more water soluble by mixing it with the glucuronic acid. Once it formed it, mixed with the conjugated with the glucuronic acid, it will be secreted into the bile, then to the intestine. In the intestine, there will be again three parts will be separated. About 10% or some amount of that one, it will be absorbed from the blood and enters the portal blood, and 10% of that urobilinogen, whatever it is formed, that will be passed through the or excreted through the urine, and another 90% it is formed into the stercobilirubin, and then it is excreted through the feces. This is how the fate of the bilirubin taking place. So this picture will show you the exact this one. So this is the rupture of the RBCs, which we can call that as the hemolysis, and then it will be passed on to the liver, where it will be combined with the albumin, means it is first heme destruction, globulin will be separated, and heme gives rise to the biliverdin, from biliverdin to the bilirubin, which you can call that as the unconjugated bilirubin, which is bound with the albumin, and it is transported to the liver, where the conjugation of that bilirubin will be taking place with the glucuronic acid, and then it forms into the conjugated bilirubin. This conjugated bilirubin will be separated, or it will be extracted out into the three forms. Some 10% of that one, it will be taken back into the portal vein, and some 10% of that urobilinogen, whatever it is happened, form, it is taken through the kidney, and it is will be excreted in the urine in the form of urobilinogen. Whereas this conjugated bilirubin, about 90% of this conjugated bilirubin, it undergoes the bacterial productase, and urobilinogen will be excreted through the feces. This is how the bilirubin is formed. This is the synthesis of bilirubin, which you must have learnt in the heme metabolism. Okay. Now, as I said earlier that there are existence of two types of the bilirubin, that is unconjugated bilirubin and conjugated bilirubin. So they may ask about 2 to 3 marks question, that is, what is the difference between conjugated and unconjugated bilirubin. So combining these together, we represent the bilirubin value as the total bilirubin. While writing, we write that way: total bilirubin, conjugated bilirubin, and unconjugated bilirubin. Or also, some texts they refer that as the total bilirubin, direct bilirubin, and indirect bilirubin. So in this one, the differences are that this unconjugated is normally present in the plasma, and this one is present in the bile, and unconjugated one is which is attached with the albumin, and this one is conjugated with the glucuronic acid, and this one is having the high molecular weight. Because of that one, it cannot be filtered through the kidney, and this conjugated bilirubin, which is water soluble one, it has got the low molecular weight, and it can be filtered through the kidney. Another thing is that clinically the important one, that the amount of presence of unconjugated bilirubin, it may be proved toxic when it crosses brain barrier in the neonates and causes the brain damage. So which we call that as the kern icterus. So that may happen because of the more amount of the unconjugated bilirubin, and because of the water soluble one, this conjugated bilirubin, it won't cross the brain barrier, and that's why it is a non-toxic one. So remember that this can be asked in the question in the examination, in the form of the question in the examination. So you may note it, and you can write these differences about 4 points. Okay. Now coming to the jaundice. Until this now, we have spoken about the how the bilirubin is formed. This bilirubin is the bile pigment which is found in the hemoglobin. When once the hemoglobin undergoes the catabolism, there will be breakdown of the hemoglobin into heme and globulin. Globin is the one nothing but having converted into the amino acid pool, and heme undergoes the reactions. It will be formed into the biliverdin, then bilirubin. Bilirubin is taken up from in the liver and then to the intestine. Before taking it to the intestine, it will be conjugated to make it more soluble. So the conjugation takes place by mixing it with the glucuronic acid. Before bringing the bilirubin, bilirubin will be transported to the liver with the bind complex, that is albumin and the bilirubin complex, and then once it enters into the intestine, the albumin, once it enters the intestine, the glucuronic acid will be taken away by the bacteria, and that will be converted into urobilinogen. That urobilinogen will be dispersed into the three ways. One is about 10% is taken into the portal blood, and 10% through the kidney it will be excreted, and about 90% of this bilirubin will be passed through the feces. That is how the metabolism of the bilirubin takes place. Now, when there is some disturbances or the disorders are there, then what happens? The amount of bilirubin, whatever it is supposed to be excreted out of the body, it won't happen. It gets deposited in the body. So when once it is deposited, there will be exhibition of this bilirubin in the form of yellow color at the skin level or nail beds or the sclera caused by the deposition of the bilirubin, so happens, which we call that as the hyperbilirubinemia. So when once these things happen, they will physically can be observable, and the same way it can be noted in the serum level or the blood level also. When we estimate the bilirubin, serum bilirubin we call, or in some countries they refer to that as a plasma bilirubin also. So that one, if it is crossing more than 2.5 milligram, that becomes an important one clinically. So what you can define the jaundice? Jaundice is not a disease. It is a sign of some underlying disease. It can be explained as the existence of yellow color of the skin, nail beds, sclera by the deposition of the bilirubin in the blood. So, which will be referred is as the hyperbilirubinemia. So, clinically it is evident by the presence of bilirubin in the serum when it once crosses the 2.5 milligram per deciliter. So you must have seen in your areas also, you must have come across the people who must be suffering from the jaundice. Very fact that they will have the yellowishness color in their eyes, and also there is the say in English, whatever things glitter yellow, it is not the indicator of the jaundice. However, in our local language, in Kannada also it is there, that they say that a person who is suffering from jaundice, whatever things he looks at, it looks as the one which is consisting of yellowish color. So when you are suspecting a person without any proper reason, so he may hit back telling that everything is looking to you in a yellowish color because you are suffering from the jaundice. This way it has got some existence in the society. Okay. Now, what causes that rise in the bilirubin level? So, the causes for the jaundice are usually classified based on the dysfunction of normal metabolism or excretion of the bilirubin. So, the metabolism of bilirubin can occur at the various stages, means the disturbances of this metabolism of the bilirubin, it can occur at the various situations. One is overproduction of the reticuloendothelial system, more formation of the RBCs, or the failure of the hepatocyte cells to uptake, and failure of the conjugations for the glucuronic acid, or obstruction of the biliary excretion into the intestine. So we call that as the obstructive jaundice. When there is a presence of some tumors are there, that time this type of the obstruction may occur. Because of that one, the retention of the bilirubin will be there, and that causes the rise in the level of bilirubin. So these are the 3-4 chances are the reasons you can mention where you will find, because of the dysfunction of these systems, the rise in the bilirubin level will take place. So any condition that trips up the movement of the bilirubin from blood to liver and out of the body can cause the jaundice. So bilirubin level, it exceeds up to 3 times than the normal. That is, in a person who is suffering from the severe jaundice, his bilirubin level will be exceeding. I have seen in one patient in our hospital, that person's bilirubin level was 58 milligram per deciliter. So whereas the normal range for that one is hardly between 0.3 to 1 or 1.2, some text they refer, but usually up to 1 milligram. And if it is crossing more than 2.5, you can consider it as a clinical jaundice. But whereas a person who is having the bilirubin level with 58 milligram, you just imagine what may be his condition. I literally was shaken to see him. He was just breathing, and he was lying with the all his legs and hands covered with his face at one place and lying there without any movement. He was totally a disoriented one, and that person was about to collapse. So you just imagine, when this bilirubin level reaches to that level, what can be the prediction about or the prognosis about that person. So it is not any that serious matter if it is controlled and treated properly at the early time. The thing is that should be detected earlier. The main thing for that is that the diet restriction and some other things what the doctors may say you. So that should be followed and that should be avoided. So the normal value for the bilirubin is up to 1 milligram or 1.2 milligram. So, as I said earlier, means jaundice is first recognized or it is diagnosed by the estimation of the bilirubin value. That is total bilirubin, conjugated bilirubin, and unconjugated bilirubin. So, based on the presence of these two, conjugated and unconjugated, the type of the jaundice can be classified into the three things. They are hemolytic jaundice, hepatocellular jaundice, and obstructive jaundice. These can be also referred with the another name. Hemolytic is prehepatic. They call that as the prehepatic jaundice, and second one hepatocellular, that is hepatic jaundice. They call that as the hepatic jaundice, and then last one obstructive jaundice. It can be also called as the post hepatic jaundice. Remember, In some texts they use some kind of the use, so don't get confused. Hemolytic means prehepatic, hepatic means hepatocellular jaundice, and then post-hepatic, that is obstructive jaundice. Now coming to this prehepatic one, the pathology is occurring outside the liver, means you have to take into the consideration liver, which is referred as the hepatic one, and it is the consequence of the inability of the liver to handle an increased bilirubin load. Suppose there is a rupture of more amount of the RBCs, then it will be difficult for the liver to handle whatever the amount of that heme is undergoing the catabolism. So that time it will be inability of the liver to handle that more amount of the incoming bilirubin load. This limiting factor is the saturation of the enzyme, that is glucuronidal transferase. Means further for the conjugation one, the glucuronidal transferase, the glucuronic acid will not be available. That's why this condition occurs where there will be rise in the bilirubin level. So that condition is referred as the prehepatic one. So an infection or the medical condition destruct the red blood cells sooner than an usual, means it is not in the systematic way, and there will be rise in the bilirubin level. In which conditions it forms? In conditions like the blood transfusion, gallbladder stone, or sickle cell anemia, malaria, thalassemia. So there will be massive lysis of the red blood cells will be taking place. So they may produce more amount of the bilirubin faster than the liver can conjugate it. So whatever that is happening, that is prior to the liver. That's why it is referred as the prehepatic one. So you got it, no? The prehepatic means that is the destruction of the liver heme and forming of the presenting of the liver bilirubin to the liver, the more amount than the capacity of the liver to handle it. So in that condition, the rise in the bilirubin level will be increased. So in which conditions it may happen? That is in the case of malaria, sickle cell anemia, beta thalassemia, or the gallbladder stone, or the blood transfusion reaction. All these conditions give rise to the increase in the bilirubin level, which you can call that as the prehepatic one. Okay, in this condition bilirubin level is increased, but what about the conjugated bilirubin and unconjugated bilirubin? So we'll see in the next slide. So the prehepatic jaundice is also referred as the hemolytic jaundice. The person who may be suffering from that, it will be called as the prehepatic or hemolytic jaundice. The drugs like this penicillin or sulfasalazine, hemolytic anemia, glucosidase deficiency, or breakdown of the RBCs, more in that one, all lead to the unconjugated bilirubin level in the blood, but liver functions will be normal. Causes of the hemolytic jaundice are those of the hemolytic anemia. You may be knowing that what may be the reasons for hemolytic anemia. The same reasons can be applied to this hemolytic anemia. So in this one, the Alois discoloration will be less marked than the seen in the hepatic and extrahepatic one. So one observation should be made here, that the amount of the bilirubin that is formed, again that will be classified depending upon the physiological jaundice, we call that one, or pathological jaundice, it will be rising, but based on the level of the conjugated and unconjugated bilirubin, we can classify that hemolytic jaundice. So here I tell now only, if suppose 6 milligram is the total bilirubin, then the conjugated bilirubin will be lesser one. Hardly it may be 0.9 or 1.2 milligram like that, because conjugation will not be taking place. So unconjugated bilirubin will be raised. When it is 1.2 means it is 4.8 is the unconjugated bilirubin. So that picture indicates that that person is suffering from the hemolytic jaundice. Now, so total bilirubin level will be increased, and it is predominantly because of unconjugated bilirubin. So the conjugated bilirubin will be very much less. So another thing to be noted here, that whenever we do the test for the bilirubin estimation, we do it under the heading of LFT, that is liver function test. So in that liver function test, there are about 7 to 8 parameters are there which we will be doing that one. First thing is that is the total protein level. That is, another one is the albumin level, globulin level, and then this bilirubin again three parts, that is total bilirubin, conjugated bilirubin, and unconjugated bilirubin. So apart from this one, we process about three enzymes which are rich or indicating about the dysfunction or functioning well of the liver. They are the SGOT, that is that aspartate transaminase, and alanine transferase, that is ALT, which are popularly known as or called as SGOT, SGPT, and another third one is the alkaline phosphatase. When you found that the bilirubin level total is increased, that is because of the unconjugated bilirubin, and conjugated is very low, and this transperases, that is both SGOT, SCPT and alkaline phosphatase are low, and albumin, which is the one which is acting as a carrier or the transporter, that is also under near to the normal range, then it indicates that that person is suffering from the hemolytic jaundice or prehepatic jaundice. So greater amount of the urobilinogen are produced, with the increased amount of the excretion of the urobilinogen will be formed. So the prehepatic jaundice or hemolytic jaundice, what will be the picture? The picture is that total bilirubin raised, unconjugated is raised, conjugated bilirubin is low, and all the three enzymes and albumin level are near to the normal one, and there will be the presence of urobilinogen in the urine. So these pictures suggest, indicate the existence of the hemolytic jaundice. Now coming to the hepatocellular jaundice, that is hepatic jaundice. The damage to the liver cells when it happens, particularly in case of cirrhosis of liver we call. So that may cause a decrease in the both the uptake of the bilirubin and also the production of conjugated bilirubin. So that time it will be called as the hepatocellular jaundice. They are again classified into the two things, that is retention jaundice and regurgitation jaundice. So in the retention jaundice, there will be the defect in the transport of the bilirubin, and in the second one, the hepatic cells are damaged or defective, so that they cannot do the excretion of the products from the hepatocyte cells. So these are the two things which you can find in the hepatocellular jaundice. And again, the thing is that in this hepatic jaundice, again when we look at the bilirubin level will be raised one, and then the conjugated bilirubin and unconjugated bilirubin, they will be almost equal to each other. Suppose your total bilirubin is 12 milligram, then conjugated may be 4.8 and unconjugated is 5.2, like that one, or 6.1, like that it will be there. So clubbing or combining together the values of conjugated and unconjugated, we will be reporting the value of the total bilirubin. And also when this you look at the enzymes levels, they will be increased one. They will be increased levels will be formed. So some inherited diseases are there, like Gilbert disease, Crigler-Najjar syndrome. These are the one where you find retention of the jaundice will be there. So here there will be increased urobilinogen in the urine will be there, and hepatitis is also confirmed with the viral hepatitis. More the persons will be suffering from the hepatitis jaundice, they will be identified with the effect of the some viral attack, which can be called as the viral hepatitis we often see. So in that one, the enzymes will be increased except the alkaline phosphatase, and then the total bilirubin will be increased, and this conjugated bilirubin and unconjugated bilirubin will be increased equal to each other. That will be the picture of the hepatitis or the hepatic jaundice. So what will be other things? The urine will be dark in the color and stools will be pale clay color, and patient may be feeling the nausea, anorexia and other conditions. They are the one which indicates or you find in the alcoholic liver disease, or in the post-operative jaundice, or the person may be suffering from the some cancer or toxic liver diseases and inborn error metabolism. All these things which you may find in the hepatic jaundice. So here both the enzymes will be increased one. Now coming to the third one, that is obstructive jaundice, which we call as the post-hepatic one. So post-hepatic means that is blockage of the flow of the bile from the liver. So what happens whenever the bile that is formed in the liver, that cannot be released into the intestine and it overflows. It is not going into the liver to get excreted through the this one feces or in the liver. So that's why the bilirubin level will be increased one. So that time that condition will be referred as the obstructive jaundice. So the presence of hepatic tumor of the bile stone may block the bile ducts, preventing the passage of the bilirubin in the intestine. So it is the one reason where there will be the movement of this bile will not be taking place, or the bilirubin. That's why the blockage will be there, and that will be referred as the obstructive jaundice. So the patients who are suffering from the obstructive jaundice, they feel or experience GI, gastrointestinal pain, nausea, and produce the stools that are totally clay or clay color. So these are the other symptoms or the findings in the obstructive jaundice. The most common obstructions will be the stones in the bile duct, neoplasm, the cancer, or the stricture caused by the congenital defects in the ducts or by the trauma to ducts during the abdominal surgery. These may be some reasons it can be referred to the obstructive jaundice. And it can be noted here that the prolonged obstruction of the bile duct can lead to the liver damage and subsequent rise in the unconjugated bilirubin. So the bilirubin picture in the obstructive jaundice will be that total bilirubin will be high and conjugated bilirubin will be also high, but unconjugated bilirubin will be very low. So remember well, in the hemolytic jaundice or prehepatic one, the conjugated bilirubin will be less and unconjugated will be more. And in the viral hepatitis or hepatic jaundice, the conjugated and unconjugated values will be nearing to each other. Whereas in the obstructive jaundice, the value of the conjugated will be very high and unconjugated will be almost low. This is the picture based on the values, and also other some the findings, clinical findings. You have to classify the jaundice into the three things, that is prehepatic, hepatic and post-hepatic, that is hemolytic jaundice, hepatic jaundice and obstructive jaundice. So it will be characterized by the increased plasma conjugated bilirubin, and due to the decreased formation of urobilins in the intestine, there will be decreased excretion will be there, and so that what happens, you don't find urinobilinogen, but you may find large amount of the bilirubin in the urine. So which you may find the color changes in the urine one, which indicates the yellow orange or presence of the bilirubin or the jaundice in that patient. Now this is something about the jaundice in the adults, which can be classified into the three things, that is prehepatic, hepatic and post-hepatic. Equally, there is lot of importance or things to be learnt about the jaundice that occur at the neonatal stage, because the the jaundice is the one which occurs more with the neonatal than the adults one. You may be remember, or you may ask your mothers that your granny used to take you when you are born to the upstairs in the morning time, just hardly when the sun rays are falling. That time she used to expose you to that rays, that is UV rays. That is the idea behind that one, was that if there is the presence of the jaundice are existing, that should vanish away. That was the ancestors, our ancestors used to do that one. So based on this one, you can imagine that the newborn babies are more prone to have the jaundice. That is, we call that as the neonatal jaundice. The again there will be two things you can call that, that is full term baby and preterm baby. So the chances of occurrence of this bilirubin in the neonates is about 60% in the full term babies, and preterm babies it is about the 80%. And again the jaundice that occur with the neonates, you can classify it into two things, that is physiological and pathologic one. So what are those things, we'll see in the next slides. The main observation is that it appears after the 24 hours. Once the birth has taken place, it appears after the 24 hours. And its peak level or the intensity will be 4th or 5th or 7th day in the preterm. And it will be at the 4th or 5th in the full term completed babies, and it is on the 7th day, up to the 7th day you can find with the preterm babies. And always remember that serum bilirubin level will not cross 15 milligram in the physiological jaundice, and clinically not detectable after the 14 days. Means after the birth, if at all there is the jaundice levels are found, or jaundice is found with the rise in the bilirubin level, the bilirubin level will not exceed more than 15 milligram, and up to 14 days it may be there. Of course, by slightly reducing values will be found, and it will disappear without any treatment, which you can call that as the physiological jaundice. However, it is the rule in the medicine that the babies should be monitored if the worsening of jaundice is taking place. So, in the neonatal jaundice, it is about 60 and 80%. The 60% chances are with the full term babies, and with the preterm babies it is about the 80%, and it can be classified as the physiological jaundice and pathological jaundice. And physiological jaundice, it may occur after the 24 hours, first thing, and second thing, the intensity of the rise can be found with the in the fourth or fifth day in the full term babies, or at the seventh day in the preterm babies, and the level will not exceed the value of 15 milligram per deciliter, and then the clinically it is the one which is not detectable, means after the 14 day it will vanish away without any treatment. Okay. So, what may be the reason for physiological jaundice? That is increased bilirubin load, defective uptake from the plasma, defective conjugation, decreased conjugation, and increased enter of hepatic circulation. So, these are the some reasons you can mention about the occurrence of physiological jaundice. Okay. So you can see from this graph that how this bilirubin peak will be there with the both full term and preterm one, and it is not crossing more than 15 milligram, and maximum by 11 or 12 days it will vanish away. This is called as the physiological jaundice. Now coming to the pathological one. So, if it is a pathological jaundice that may occur within the 24 hours of the age, or 24 hours of within the birth, and increase of the bilirubin will be 5 milligram per day it will be there, and the values will be increasing more than 15 milligram, and jaundice will exist even after the 14 days, and stool clay will be there, clay colored will be there, or white colored one, and we will find lot of amount of the urinobilirubin. So the staining of the cloths will be there. And another important thing is that in this one you can refer that as a prehepatic jaundice or hemolytic jaundice. What may happen? The total bilirubin value may cross even 15-18 milligram also, but conjugation will not be taking place. That's why the value the will be very low conjugation, whereas the indirect one, that is the unconjugated, will be very high. But even then, it should be the value that the direct bilirubin or conjugated bilirubin should be low, but whereas the conjugated or direct bilirubin you may find crossing more than 2 milligram also in the cases of the pathological jaundice. So risk factors for neonatal jaundice is jaundice within the first 24 hours of the birth, one is. Another one, a sibling who had the jaundice as a neonate, and unrecognized hemolysis that may take place, and deficiency of G6PD, that is one enzyme. We will discuss it with the time of the glucose metabolism, and because of any infection, and it is more found with the race belonging to East Asia or North Indians. So the neonatal jaundice can be found with these possible reasons. So management will be towards the reducing the bilirubin levels and prevent the bilirubin toxicity. Thing is that the if the bilirubin level is increased, that may pass on to the brain, where the brain cells can get damaged, and it may lead to the mental retardation, deafness can occur. So to avoid all those things, the treatment has to be started very fast or in a aggressive manner. What are those things? That is early feeding. Sometimes because of various reasons, the baby will not be given the mother feeding. That should be started, and it should be properly hydrated. And another important thing is of the phototherapy, what your grannies must have done in their olden days, taking the child up the upstairs in the early morning or 7 or 7:30 when the sun rays are falling, and exposing the child to the sun rays. That the same thing can be done now in the hospital established clinics, which one we refer that as the phototherapy. And some use of the drugs to promote the liver enzymes and protein synthesis. So all these things can help for the bilirubin metabolism. So these are the setup in the hospitals you can find, where the neonates or the infants are exposed with the bare body without having any clothes, and it will be exposed to that UV rays, and however the eyes are closed so that that should not fall on the retina and make the damage. So there will be some procedure or the amount of timing that they should be exposed. They all will be calculated, and this way they expose the children to this phototherapy and make the bilirubin value to come down. Remember, in the physiological jaundice, it is the one which occurs after the first day, whereas in the pathological one, it occurs within the 24 hours, and the value of the bilirubin will not cross more than 14 milligram in the physiological jaundice, whereas in the pathological one, it exceeds the more than 14 milligram, 15 milligram, and the by the end of 14 days, the physiological jaundice will vanish away, but it persists even after the 14 days. So these are the some basic differences between the physiological jaundice and pathological jaundice. So what is the use of this phototherapy? It is a treatment for the jaundice where the exposure of skin to the light source converts the unconjugated to the water soluble. Though then these can be excreted in the usual way. The unconjugated bilirubin can be neurotoxic, causing acute or chronic encephalopathy that may result in the cerebral palsy, that is paralysis, hearing loss and seizures. These can be occurred when unconjugated bilirubin is exceeded. So the intention of exposing the neonates to the phototherapy is that conjugation should take more place, and making that bilirubin, which is in the unconjugated one, into the water soluble one, so that the excretion of this bilirubin will be taking place in the proper way. So it is a blue-green light which is most effective for phototherapy, because it penetrates the skin and it is absorbed by the bilirubin to have the photochemical effect. This will provide light shining directly on an undressed baby whose eyes will be would need to protection from the light, and it will be covered by the patches. Side effect, of course, there will be some side effect of this phototherapy. It includes the interference with the maternal infant interaction, imbalance of thermal environment, water loss will be there, dehydration may place, and there can be the electrolyte disturbances will be there, and the side effects may be in a long run, that is of the allergic diseases and retinal damage if the eyes are not properly closed one. So these are the some side effects of the phototherapy. So the idea behind this one is that how one should approach is that after the birth, nowadays it may be a routine one, that is taking the body weight, gestation and postnatal age, that should be confirmed by the nurse or the doctors, and confirm should should be done whether the jaundice is present or not, or it is visible, and they have to assess the clinical condition, and and you have to decide whether the jaundice is physiological or pathological one, and one should see for the evidences of carnitines if the amount of bilirubin is very more, because the early recognition and treatment of the hyperbilirubinemia, it prevents definitely the severe brain damage. Okay, now see, these are the values, the bilirubin values normally, that is between total bilirubin, that is in the adult it will be between zero point 0.8 to 0.2 to 0.8, whereas in the newborn it will be up to 0.8 to 12. In some textbook it is given as 14 also. So clinical jaundice in the adult, if it is crossing more than 2.5, then that will be considered as clinically proved one, and whereas the critical value in the infants or the newborn one, if it is crossing more than 15 milligram. These are the values for the bilirubin in both the adult and the newborn one. So what are the lab investigation that will be done in that one? That is more important. The investigation they involve, that is the enzymes, that is which are present in the liver, that is ALT, AST and ALT, and definitely the bilirubin values of total unconjugated bilirubin and conjugated bilirubin, and definitely the protein and albumin, and other lab investigation they remote of gamma GT and prothrombin time. So these are all the one which are included in the LFT, that is liver function test. So LFT is the central test in investigating the jaundice. So in the prehepatic one, it is what the observation you should do is that increase unconjugated bilirubin along with the total bilirubin, and urobilinogen will be increased one, and stool urobilinogen will be increased, and rest of the other parameters will be normal. Main thing is that total bilirubin and unconjugated bilirubin increase, urobilinogen, presence of urobilinogen in the urine. Whereas in the hepatocellular, bilirubin, total bilirubin, conjugated and unconjugated are near to each other, they will be raised one, and the AST, ALT will be raised one, but where in that one, you must notice that the increase, though there is the increase in the both the enzymes AST and ALT, the increase in the ALT is more prominent one rather than the AST, because it is from the liver one, whereas you can find the existence of the AST in the muscle cells also, and along with that one, the alkaline phosphatase and gamma GT, that is one another enzyme, that will be moderately they are raised one, and albumin level will be low, but plasma globulins are raised due to the increased formation of the antibodies. These are the pictures of the hepatocellular jaundice. And in post-hepatic, definitely the urobilinogen will be absent because of the blockage there, and serum bilirubin will be increased one, with the conjugated or direct bilirubin is elevated one, and other enzymes that is AST and ALT, there will be some slight increase will be there, but the rise in the alkaline phosphatase and gamma GT is very much highly appreciable one, means to that much level it increases, and urobilinogen will be absent one. So these are the some lab findings. Based on that, the classification of the jaundice is done as the prehepatic, hepatic and post-hepatic one. There is one another condition that is called as the kernicterus or bilirubin encephalopathy. It will be forming there in cases of the neonates where there is a deposition of unconjugated bilirubin in the basal ganglia and brain stream of the nuclei. So that condition indicates about the presence of kernicterus. This type of the jaundice occur within the first 24 hours of birth. However, it is a very rare one, but it is preventable one. So along with that one, you can find with the patients about the muscle rigidity, irregular respirations can be found. How, but one thing should be remembered that if it is left untreated, the bilirubin can then spread into the brain where it causes the long-term damage like mental retardation and deafness. This is about the kernicterus. So it may occur in the prehepatic jaundice. Some points are there that you can note down. The only elevation in the bilirubin with the normal AST, ALT, ALP, which you can find in the prehepatic one. Hepatocellular jaundice, you can find rise in the AST, ALT comparing to more than the ALP levels, and ALP will be ALT will be SGPT will be more specific in the hepatocellular one, and a marked increase in the transaminase in both of them you can find in the cases of ischemic hepatitis, where you can report more than 1000, means some laboratories even have reported about 5000 or 10,000 like these enzyme levels. But in the alcoholic liver disease, enzymes they don't rise that much severely. You can find the moderate rise about 200 to 300 inflation units, and decreased albumin levels are seen in the hepatic cirrhosis and severe hepatic dysfunction. These are some points that should be found when you are estimating, looking at the jaundice one. Another few things are there, that is sometimes during the birth delivery process the newborn may sustain the injury to the head resulting in the blood collection and blood clot under the skull. As this blood is naturally broken down, sudden elevation in the bilirubin levels will be found, and it may shows the immature liver resulting in the jaundice. So this can be the another one reason to form the presence of more level of the bilirubin and giving rise to the jaundice. Not only just because of the overproduction or the breakdown of the hemoglobin, this also can be the one of the reason for the prehepatic jaundice or in the neonatal jaundice. Now we will see to the case studies in this one, that is a person 21 years old presented OPD and he noticed his eyes look yellow for the 10 days, and he had no other symptoms, but for the first 15 days he noticed fatigue and urine becomes dark or dark yellow, and there was no history of the jaundice, and he didn't report any history of headache and fever, and however he was not experiencing any abdominal pain or the swelling, and his physical examination was done, and they were almost 130 by 60 BP and pulse rate was 88, and one thing they found that there was the enlargement of the liver, but however no splenomegaly was there. But laboratory findings said that hemoglobin was 11.2 and liver function test, so AST and ALT were just raised moderately. What can be the normal range for that one? Anybody? AST and ALT? Normal range for AST and ALT. Anybody? Yes, please. I hope you are there at other side, my dear students.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Huh?
Yes, sir.
No, no. I want answer. What is the normal range for AST and ALT? It is 0 to 40 or 5 to 40 international units per liter. And you are finding in this case they are just moderately raised, 89 and 61, but alkaline phosphatase was raised very prominently and albumin level was slightly lowered here. And the more prominently observed values are that total bilirubin was 28 milligram and direct bilirubin or conjugated bilirubin, that was 23 milligram. It means that unconjugated was very less one. So what can be your diagnosis? Three things you are observing here. The bilirubin level is highly elevated, first thing, and except alkaline phosphatase, OTPT are normal, and conjugated bilirubin is very much increased one. So all these things along with the rise in the alkaline phosphatase indicate that it is the case of obstructive jaundice. In the obstructive jaundice, the conjugated bilirubin will be highly elevated along with the alkaline phosphatase. Okay. Now we'll go to the second case. 21-year-old female was admitted with the complaints of vomiting, loose motion, pain in abdomen, and female. Her biochemical investigations for protein albumin are normal, but however, the bilirubin level was 21, and direct and indirect almost somehow they are close to each other. And alkaline phosphatase was slightly increased and creatine was just normal, sodium potassium was also normal, but the other enzymes related to LFT they were raised very prominently, high values were there. So what could be your impression? And also microscopically they have found that some viral particles were there, so it can be indicative of viral hepatitis or hepatic jaundice. In the hepatic jaundice, the conjugated and unconjugated bilirubin will be almost equal to each other and OTPT will be raised one. There will be raised one, and alkaline phosphatase is also slightly raised but not that prominent one. So this indicates of the existence of the hepatic jaundice. As these viral some particles are found in the electron microscopy, you can refer this one as the viral hepatitis. Okay. Now I completed with this jaundice, that is starting with the bilirubin formation, how the excretion of this bilirubin will be formed, and because of some disorder in this functioning there can be the existence of the jaundice where the rise in the level of bilirubin will be there, and based on the presence of the values of the conjugated bilirubin and unconjugated bilirubin in relation to the total bilirubin, you can classify it into the three things, that is prehepatic, hepatic and posthepatic. So you have seen that some two cases we have solved. So these are some questions I am giving you for your practice at your home. Just try to answer it. What is bilirubin? Is liver dysfunction only causes jaundice? What causes the newborn jaundice? What are the different types of the jaundice? On what base jaundice can be classified? What are the laboratory tests available for the jaundice? So try to look into the textbook or other whatever I have given the class, you can make out and keep on reading. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, beta.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
thank
Thank
you,
you,
thank
sir.
you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, sir.
Thank you, sir.